whatever. He was allowed to take his gun from Alaska to Florida and then start shooting people up. So I said, well, you know, they're not going to let you have a gun, but maybe you can put an armor backpack insert into your backpack. And they criticized me for that. Look at that. He's trying to profit off it. No, I'm trying to tell people how to survive. And we've got products here that will help you to survive, you and your family and your health, and it will help InfoWars to survive as well. So let's go to Dr. Corsi, Dr. Jerome Corsi, our Washington correspondent. Welcome, Dr. Corsi.
Great to be with you, David. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And tell us what the current status of your YouTube account is now. It's going up and down and up and down.
Well, yesterday late on Thursday, I got notice that YouTube, I guess it blinked, they've changed their mind, and they were going to restore my channel on YouTube. And then by this morning, when I got up and recognized that it was back and that, in fact, I'd had a message from the YouTube team saying they would help me restore the channel, that evidently, they backed down. They just decided that they were wrong, and, they couldn't justify terminating my channel, accusing me of harassment and bullying, which I never do. I mean, that's not, I'm not, they couldn't prove I had done it. Yeah. And the point is that, it was completely arbitrary. The whole thing was completely arbitrary. You had Southern Poverty Law Center in there. It's an obvious attempt to censor us. I mean, I pounded Eric Schmidt over on Twitter. I moved my account over to Gab. And I'm going to say Gab is going to be now a primary place for me to put videos. I mean, YouTube did this once; they can do it again. I mean, how can you trust Eric Schmidt and Google after this? And they're, completely biased. They are in the bag. They were for Hillary Clinton. I think Eric Schmidt is very concerned about this executive order President Trump signed on December 21st, confiscating the assets of anybody who was involved in human rights trafficking or corruption. The next day or that day, he resigned from Alphabet. That wasn't coincidental. These are the things I think that, you can't trust a group who's going to terminate you, and then only after there's a huge public outcry, and they get enormous pushback, they're afraid they're going to, it's time to put an Internet Bill of Rights into place. We got to have First Amendment rights on the Internet. We can't have these giants like Google and Facebook and the others operate to eliminate conservative speech and libertarians, especially not before the 2018 election, which is, I'm confident, what Google and Eric Schmidt wanted to accomplish.
Oh, absolutely. And they're doing the work, as you pointed out. They are allied with people on the political left who don't want to have a free marketplace of ideas, and then they say, well, we're not actually, the government's not actually doing it, YouTube is doing it, it's a private site, they can do it, and then YouTube pushes it one more level out. They're saying, and again, this is from Gizmodo, that was celebrating the fact that they thought that this was just preliminary censorship to take down your channel, that Alex's channel, main channel, would be the next one, and then taunting Twitter and saying, you're notoriously bad at fighting harassment. This is always, it's this snowflake attitude. Oh, I'm being harassed. Just shut them down. I don't want to have any discussion. But then they come out, the same publication, Gizmodo, says YouTube's new moderation team stumbles out of the gate. Oh, mistakes were made. So it's not the government trying to censor people, the political left, the deep state. No, it's YouTube. And it's not even YouTube. It's those people that are new that they hired. They didn't really mean to do any of this stuff.
Well, I think we don't need any clearer demonstration than this recent YouTube, Google trying to censor me off of YouTube, canceling the account. No recourse, the appeal is meaningless. There's nobody at Google to talk to. You can't find any telephone numbers. Nobody's accountable. It's all these nameless minions running around. And then they also canceled my Gmail mail account. So, I mean, I guess they're all linked. And you go back to the fact that Google was funded and started by the CIA, and I think the whole group is penetrated by spooks. I think every click you make is reported instantly to the NSA and to the CIA. I'm confident that Eric Schmidt is a spook and in the bag for them, has been forever. He was in the bag for Hillary Clinton. He put millions of dollars into Hillary Clinton. He gave all of our Google data to Hillary for her voting data. He didn't give it equally to Trump. I mean, the bias and the intolerance of the left. Left is uninterested in the First Amendment. They're uninterested in the Second Amendment. They're uninterested in the Fourth Amendment, especially as they apply to conservatives. They're not interested in any of the fundamental principles of the republic or our basic freedoms. They don't want debate. They want gulags. They're basically a communist, cultural revolution seeking for thought reform.
That's right. And they don't want any discussion of real issues. Again, you were published by USA Today talking about let's allow teachers to exercise their rights to protect themselves and other people. Oh, got to shut that guy down. Can't have that kind of discussion. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Dr. Jerome Corsi. I'm David Knight. Jerome Corsi. He is the Washington Bureau Chief for InfoWars. And of course, as we look at these news outlets, we had Gizmodo taunting him, saying, "Oh, look, he's gone. Oh, he was doing great. Just yesterday, he was published on USA Today, and now he's gone. You'll just have to find him on Twitter," which is notorious for not kicking off people who are harassing people. Well, I tell you what, I've never seen more disgusting harassment than I have on YouTube in terms of comments. Twitter does a better job of that. But there is, even though Twitter does control things and Facebook controls things, they've algorithmically taken down President Trump's engagement with their new algorithm. They've dropped it by 45%, even though President Trump is still tweeting out the same amount in that same period of time. Took it down very quickly. It is censorship by algorithm. It is censorship by an army of Southern Poverty Law Center social justice warriors and snowflakes who make the accusation, "I'm being harassed. Help, help, I'm being harassed." Shut them down. And then taunting even USA Today. As Splinter News says, USA Today publishes InfoWars conspiracy nut without even realizing it. Shaming them, right? And that was a very well-written piece, Dr. Corsi, that you had at USA Today. Very well-written, very well-reasoned. And I would say kudos to USA Today for putting out a piece which obviously they don't agree with, but having an open discussion there, well-reasoned discussion. But these people, like Gizmodo and this little outlet I've never heard of before, Splinter News, they want to criticize anybody that would have free speech and tell them, you better start censoring this. We don't want to have any rational discussion of solutions that could help kids in school. No, not going to do that. We've got an agenda to push, and anybody that doesn't sign up to that agenda, we're going to accuse them of harassment and bullying and censor them, shut them down.
Well, David, this is exactly what the deep state does. It's a concerted effort to minimize, marginalize anybody who doesn't agree with their narrative. If you're not on board with a hard left Hillary Clinton identity politics, willing to say hate politics in the Southern Poverty Law Center, one of the greatest hate organizations in America, if you don't align with them, well, then you're a conspiracy theorist nutcase. I also want to thank you, David. I want to thank the entire crew that have participated in this Operation Paul Revere. I think what it attests to, again, is the impact that InfoWars has reaching directly to the American people. It's the same impact that, if we had not had this 34 hours, we had not really gone all out to get this in front of the American people, I don't know that we would have had the reversal. I mean, it was clearly the pressure. It was clearly the, millions of people who now get to see the full extent of Facebook, Google, all these giants, YouTube, censorship. This is really this is the core of the issue, and it's why Infowars.com continues to thrive.
And when we look at what they're doing, you talk about how they monitor and follow people. It's just been put out that Facebook is putting out viruses to follow people that don't even sign up to Facebook to monitor them. This is what is really creepy about the internet, and it's why things like radio stations are very important to us as well. We got to have a full spectrum of communication stuff out there. I mean, people listening on the radio, they don't know that people are listening on the radio. They don't have any way to follow and trace those people back like they do on the internet. And unlike the internet, we put stuff up, we store it there, but they can just flush it all down the memory hole like they almost did with you yesterday. And I guess you still got 2 strikes against you at YouTube, right? They could pull that plug. They
removed all of it. They took everything off. There's no strikes at all. I mean, they erased the whole thing. I mean, but it's not done yet. I mean, I had to restore my Gmail account. And by the way, I'm going to war with them today. Now, Eric Schmidt wants to delay the earnings. You got to wait a month while they money launder your earnings. You can't get my February earnings. They send it to another company, this AdSense, and then they keep the float. I mean, if Eric Schmidt's really that hard up, if he's on hard times, I'd be happy to make him a loan. I can loan him a few dollars to get him through a hard time, but otherwise,
well, they are ridiculously wealthy. I guess it's because they do stuff like that, you know.
And they're also have ridiculous control over broadband. And if they're going to be the censors, and if they're going to do this Southern Poverty Law Center nonsense, we're going to pound them continuously. Look, if Eric Schmidt wants to be a punk on this and wants to fight it out, I'll duke it out with him anywhere he wants. How about U.S. District Court? That's not good enough. Let's duke it out at the FCC. Let's duke it out at the FTC. Eric Schmidt thinks he can bowl this game by having a big, powerful Facebook, and then he can decide, he's God to decide what free speech is allowed and not free speech. Eric Schmidt, you got another thing coming. I don't think you deserve the broad bait. I want an Internet Bill of Rights, and I think this brings it to the American people, and we're going to push it now. And Eric Schmidt, you want to be a spook. You want to continue working for the CIA. You want to send every click we make to the NSA. I'm going to broadcast that loud and wide to the American people. They want to call me.
Well, as we look at this, Dr. Corsi, it's not just our ability to communicate. It's also, they're shutting down our ability to communicate and to oppose their attempt to shut down our ability to shoot. And at the same time, you've got Google and these other people who are pushing our controls over our ability to move around with smart cities, with self-driving cars, and so forth. They want complete control of everything that we do. These people in Silicon Valley, these globalist elitists, they have absolutely no respect for any of our rights. They don't want us to own anything. They want us to be renters. They want to control and know everything that we do. And this is what is really creepy about this, is how power is being concentrated in the hands of just a few people. They talk about the 1% of the 1% getting much, much wealthier. Well, it's that control that I'm concerned about, because that's what's allowing them to accumulate so much money. But it's also going to allow them to to control the way that we communicate, the way that we defend ourselves, and even the way that we can move around, or whether or not we can move around.
Well, David, you're exactly right. I mean, rather than being happy the account was restored, I'm still angry that these unspecified people for unspecified reasons at YouTube had dared call me a liberal. These liberals calling me a leftist nutcase that I was harassing and bullying. Now that's on the record. That'll never be forgotten by all the people at WikiLeaks and everywhere else, and Wikipedia and all the other wiki out there that want to trash us because we're conservatives.
That's right. It's defamation.
I'm angry about this. Defamation. I mean, this is this is fundamental defamation, and this kind of defamation extends into censorship. And I don't know who appointed Eric Schmidt. By the way, 1221 Eric Schmidt. Take a look at that executive order. I want to examine what role you played in Fusion GPS. I'm not about to let you off of the hook for crowdsource, which you put $100 million into, and lied about the Russians being the ones who hacked the DNC. I want to know why you advanced that lie. How much money did it cost you? Why did you launder the money, your money that went through Perkins Coie? Let's have some real discussion on these, because there could be criminal offenses in here, Eric, and if there are, I don't intend to let up.
Yeah, we've seen this happening, and we started reporting on this when they announced that they were going to get these groups, and they were going to have them vetting people. They were going to make it more civil and so forth. And now Twitter is saying the same thing. What does a healthy Twitter look like? The CEO says, it's a very toxic environment. Please help me with my censorship. And you got all these different media outlets out there applauding censorship, trying to shame USA Today if they put an op-ed piece in there by you on a position on gun control that they don't agree with. You advocate for arming teachers and allowing people to exercise their self-defense, which is something that the establishment press doesn't agree with. But at least they put you in there. So then they try to shame them into censoring you. That's what we're seeing going on throughout this move.
And I doubt that Eric Schmidt and his minions at Google, maybe CIA on campus, have ever read John Stuart Mill on free speech. I mean, the whole purpose of this thing was that free speech, the First Amendment, derived from the fact that the speech you got to tolerate, that you must tolerate the most, is the speech you like to hear the least.
That's right.
Now, that principle is, of course, a little opposed to the communism. And if, Google's whole campus is a little bit far left than Karl Marx, I guess they don't appreciate it. They'd rather march us off to thought reform camps. But
that's exactly what it is. It is a Marxist technique to censor anybody that you don't agree with, and then to send them to a mental institution. That's why it concerns me so much when I hear this talk about, oh, it's a mental health problem and we don't want any due process. I mean, that is, we're seeing classic Marxist tactics that are being applied. And you're talking about them defaming you. I mean, they did the same thing. The Family Research Council, we had the same people. Southern Poverty Law Center said they're a hate group because they support traditional marriage defined as one man, one woman. And because of that, you talk about defamation and ruining your reputation. Because of that, the Family Research Council was attacked by a man with a gun who was listening to the Southern Poverty Law Center. He wanted to kill those hateful people there. That's the result of that speech. Very different from, I disagree with what you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. No, they want to send somebody to kill you if they can't shut you down. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Jerome Corsi. And again, he's going to continue to fight, and so are we. That's why we have Operation Paul Revere 2018. Stay with us. We'll be right back.